Hello and welcome to Rewiring Your Brain for Happiness. If you're watching this video, you have probably already participated in some way. And this is meant to be the first video of a series of 12 videos. And sometimes if your path to happiness looks slightly different, you might receive this video at a later date. No problem, no worries. This video is about freedom circles, it's about integrity, and it's about beginning to outline your goal and create milestones. So first, we're going to talk about integrity. So this program is going to be massively based in integrity, which is simply this practice. Remember, it's not an absolute truth. It's a practice of following through with your word. So keeping your word to yourself and others, which whenever I was learning about integrity, it was described like a bicycle. So let's take a bicycle wheel, right? And there's spokes in the bicycle wheel. And the bicycle wheel, with all of its spokes and it's aired up to the right pressure, works. It works. The wheel works. You can put it on a bike. You can use the bike to roll around and get to where you want. If the bike wheel is missing spokes, one or two, and actually I've biked for a long time in my life, and I know this for a fact, if your bike wheel is missing spokes, it doesn't work. What happens is the wheel gets compromised and part of the wheel can collapse because the spokes is what keeps it round, keeps it working. So a lack of integrity, not keeping your word to yourself or other, creates a break in the spokes and your life starts to work less. It doesn't work as well. People don't trust you, you don't trust yourself to follow through with things, so you're kind of like trying to move through life with this broken wheel. So the way we can air back up the tire, the way that we can get the spokes back in order is to clean up our integrity and to live and practice keeping our word, which also includes learning to say yes and no when we need to. There's a bunch of things that we'll discuss and work through during this program to rewiring your brain for happiness. So integrity, for the sake of this program, not necessarily like absolute truth, but for the sake of this program, how we're going to define it is like this. We're going to define integrity as keeping your word. So it's very simple. You're either in integrity if you have said you're going to do something and you do it, or you're out of integrity if you say you're going to do something and you don't follow through, you don't do it. Here's the key though. I'm going to show you this. Integrity is oftentimes linked to morality. So what that means is if you do something, oftentimes you'll be like, I did something, and it will mean I'm a good person. I'm successful. I'm good, right? I achieve. It's connected to our morality. If you don't do something, if you break your word to somebody else or yourself, oftentimes we can play the story in our head around morality of I'm a bad person. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good coworker, whatever it is. So for the purposes of this program, we're going to unmarry those two. We're going to separate them. You either keep your word or you don't. And no matter if you do or you don't, it means nothing about your character. It means nothing about you being a good person or a bad person. None of that. You either keep your word or you don't. No problem. If you keep your word, great. Your life is working. If you don't, great. We can get you back in integrity. And so this is what it looks like to clean up integrity. Imagine that you told your friend that you would meet her at the movie theater. And all of a sudden life starts happening. You realize, oh crap, I've overbooked myself. How did I do that? Right? You're like, what would you do? How would you handle that with your best friend? Just think about it for a second. So my guess is is that there's some level of, you call your friend, right? So you own up to it. You call her and you say, oh my gosh, Becky, like, I totally overbooked myself. We're supposed to meet for a movie in an hour. I'm so sorry. I can't do it. Can we reschedule? Right? So there's point one, owning up to it, just calling, owning up to it. Two, there's saying sorry. There's being gentle. Like, I'm so sorry, right? And then there's three, you reschedule. You create a time to make space for your friend. So it's the same with ourselves. We are very good at cleaning up integrity with others. Well, sometimes. And then we're not as good cleaning up integrity for ourselves. So one way to build self-trust, one way to build self-respect is to begin cleaning up integrity with yourself. So let's say you say you're going to do something, right? You have a goal and you say you're going to achieve it in this program. And then you don't do it. Like you're supposed to make 3 phone calls or something. And you don't do the phone calls. What it looks like is you say, okay, you sit with yourself. You maybe place a hand on the heart. Okay, Kimberly, you didn't make the phone calls. No problem. You had them scheduled for Saturday. You didn't follow through. I'm sorry. What you're doing matters. And then you pull out your calendar and you look for, in the next few days, when you can put it in your calendar, when you can reschedule what you said you were going to do. It's also maybe a time to check in and say, is this task necessary? Is it really what I want to be doing? Right? So are calling these people something that really needs to happen? And if so, you put it in your calendar. If not, maybe you readjust, you contact me, we talk about it, right? But the key is being gentle, owning up to it, and then rescheduling it, cleaning up integrity. It means nothing about your worth. It means nothing about your character as a human being. It simply means you didn't follow through, no problem. We all don't follow through at times. And now what can I do to follow through? Okay? Perfect. Okay, so let's move in to freedom circles. So more than likely, I have explained this to you, but I want to once again kind of explain it so that you have this tool in your back pocket as we go through this program. So I'm going to show you the freedom circle again, just so that you can see it. And then we're going to go through it. Okay. So the circle furthest to the left is reality. The circle furthest to the right is story. You have feeling and you have act, and then you have new story. Okay? So the key here, reality is the facts. So if the reality is somebody yelled something at me, the reality that I would put down is somebody yelled the words, "You are a jerk." Okay? So I would write, and you could even put who it is if you know who it is. So boss, let's make this up. Boss yelled, "You are a jerk." Okay? You put it in the reality circle. The story is all of the emotion about it, all of the things that occur in your mind after this happens in real life. So reality is fact-based. Like whatever, if somebody put a camera in like the corner of the room and they were recording what happened, it would be what is the facts recorded. So you could record somebody yelling, "You're a jerk. You're a jerk," right? You could record it. What you couldn't record is the things that start occurring in your mind. That goes under story. So maybe the story is, my boss hates me. I'm a bad employee. I hate my job, right? All the things that occur in the mind. I hate my job, my boss hates me, I'm a bad employee, like all the story, all the feelings, all the belief, all the emotion, here. So if the camera was out here, I wouldn't be able to record those things because they're occurring in the mind. Your boss yells and then you have the reaction, that's the story. Okay? If your reaction was you punched him, we could record that. So that would go under reality. I punched him. Okay. But your thoughts about it go under story. So you'll notice in the gap, there's this. And this is where we live. We live like our reality and our story are the same thing. We live here. So this is the practice of separating. Okay, what really happened? What's the facts? And then what am I saying about the facts? What stories are arising out of this factual information? Okay, and then we'll go into feeling. Okay, when you hear, my boss hates me, I'm a bad employee, I hate my job, how do you feel? Well, I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel frustrated, right? And when you feel sad, angry, and frustrated, how do you act in the world? I shut down. I withdraw. I lash out. I emotionally eat, right? Whatever it is. I shut down. I withdraw. I lash out. How do you feel? Sad, angry, frustrated. How do you act? Okay? The key here is to begin to notice that it's not the reality that has you feeling and acting this way. It's the story that you have about your reality. Reality is somebody said something to you. If the reason I know that it's not the story is because if you were on the street just walking and some random stranger said to you, "You're a jerk," you might have a completely different story, like, who the heck's that guy? Or like you might laugh because you thought it was silly and funny, right? But because of this reality, you created this story. And it's this story that makes you feel a certain way and act a certain way. No problem. We're all doing this. We're all living in the story, feeling because of the story, and acting out in the world because of the story. So when we begin breaking it apart, we begin seeing like, oh, okay, this is what happened. This is just what happened. Here's what's playing in my mind about it. That's how it's creating how I feel. And then this is how I'm acting. So how do I want to act? So here we go. So you're going to drag it down, arrow. And we're going to begin, how do I want to act? Whenever my boss says something to me, even if it feels mean or rude or whatever, how do I want to act? Well, I want to be kind. I want to listen. I want to learn and grow. I want to stand up for myself, right? Whatever it is. That's how I want to act. Okay, how do you want to feel? I want to feel grounded. I want to feel peaceful, no matter what he says. I want to feel empowered. So how do you want to act? Kind, listen, grow, learn, stand up for myself. How do you want to feel, right? So dragging it down. Well, I want to feel grounded and peaceful and empowered. Okay, so then what's a new story? Same reality. The reality doesn't change. It's the same. What's a new story that can make you feel the ways you want to feel and act the ways you want to act? New story. My boss is having a really rough day. And when people have a really rough day, it's a good practice to learn to show up how you want to show up, no matter how another person acts, right? So it's a good practice to practice being grounded even when another person is not. Another story is I was kind of being a jerk. And I can own up to that, right? Like listening, like I can listen to my boss and see and ask myself, was I being a jerk? And really checking in, wanting to grow and learn, right? So you begin redeveloping stories. You begin re-brain patterning, repatterning your brain to look for different options. To look in the life that you're actually living for a different option. Okay, so this same reality occurred, but what else could it mean? What else could it mean that would have me feeling the way I want to feel and acting the way I want to act? Okay? So practice freedom circles, practice, 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 and use them all the time. So use them specifically for your project if you want, but use them all the time. All the time. They give you instant freedom because you're like, oh, maybe something else is going on. The other thing is a story is like a children's story, right? So the stories that we have in our mind are made up for good reason. We created them when we're young for survival. We created them because somebody hurt us and we want to protect ourselves. So we, my boss hates me. Maybe you have the story that a lot of people hate you, and that's your protective mechanism. But it's just a story in your head, just like Cinderella is a story that you would pick up and read to your friend's child or to your child. You wouldn't tell your child, this story is real. Base all of your relationships, base all of your life off this story. No, you would say, let's read a story. And then if they feel scared, you're going to be like, no, it's okay. It's just a story. It's not real. That's the level I want you to begin playing with story. So it's not real. You just want to see what's at play, what's underneath. What are the stories you're telling yourself that are creating how you feel and how you act? And then you play with creating a new story. Like, okay, what else could this mean? What new story could be bred out of it? What else is possible here? Okay. So practice away. Okay, next. So remember, this is just highlights from our session so that you can come back, re-listen, and keep doing the work. So we're going to go to your project. So if you haven't named your project, I really want you to name the project. And I want you to get creative, make it fun, make it playful. If you're learning to be more kind to yourself, maybe it's the self-kindness project, or the kindness in the world project, or the opening my heart project, or whatever it is. If you're doing a business, doing like a life without regrets project, a living my best life project, a bucket list project, right? Like whatever it is, naming it so that you feel connected to it. And then the 12 weeks is really breaking apart this project, but really it's to we're rewiring the brain for happiness through working on a specific project that matters to you, and that is calling to your heart. So name your project. And then if we began looking at your project, the thing to do is think about what your final goal is. So if you're doing a business plan, your final goal, or if you're doing a business, your final goal of this 12 weeks might be to have your business plan written. If you're learning to communicate with your spouse, your final goal might be to be engaging in a specific way so that every single day you're really speaking your own heart and you're also listening deeply to your partner. Right? If your goal is to stop anxious thoughts, maybe your goal is by the end of this 12 weeks, you have a recognizable difference. You can see the recognizable difference of how you're speaking to yourself. Like you begin speaking to yourself kindly, or you begin being more kind to yourself when you're suffering, right? Some goal, and then you begin breaking up the goal into milestones. Into actual milestones. So if your goal is to have less anxious thoughts, then maybe the milestone for this week is to catch every thought, write it down. That's a milestone. Okay, every thought where I'm speaking negatively to myself or I'm having an anxious thought, I'm going to write down all the anxious thoughts so I can start to see it, start to live in reality of it. If you're starting a business, maybe your job is to connect with two people that have a similar business. Ask them if you can see their business plan. Ask them if you can pick their brain, right? Whatever your milestone is. So you're going to start breaking down, looking at the final result. Okay, if in 12 weeks I have a business plan, if in 12 weeks I'm no longer speaking to myself negatively, what are the things that need to occur in order to get me there? And you begin thinking about it, begin breaking it apart, begin bringing it into small chunks. And if you need help with this, we can work through this, but beginning to really think of the end in mind and then think of what steps actually need to occur in order to get me to that goal. What do I need to do? computer just shuts down sometimes, So that is week 1. You'll notice that you have an after session worksheet. I want you to fill out that worksheet, send it to me via email. And then the day before your next session, you'll fill out the before session email. This is so that we can keep track. This is also for brain patterning. The more that you repeat the things that we're learning together, the more that you'll actually get it into your mind, into your body, and into your life. You'll notice on the after session sheet that the milestones that you chose for this week, you have dates and times, specific. The more specific, the better. The more specific you can get, the better. So date, time, when you're going to work on milestone 1, when you're going to work on milestone 2, and you put that in the email to me so that we can check in on what? Your integrity. Have you kept your word? Have you not kept your word? This whole process is also the process of building trust and building respect for self. Part of being happy is knowing you can trust yourself to follow through, knowing you can trust yourself to go after what you want in life. So that's what we're doing together. Welcome to the program. I'm so excited. If you have questions, you can email me at KimberlyEliseJohnson@gmail.com. You probably have my email, but you can always find it here at the end. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I am here for you. This 12 weeks is going to be an amazing transformational journey. Okay, see you soon.